Hey everybody, welcome on our channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto had dual blood blending and got harem, part 1. Huge shout out to hyotonuzumaki for this story. If you are new on the channel, don't forget to subscribe our channel and like the video too. So without wasting any more time, let's start the story. Do you understand your mission, Naruto? The imposingly tall figure asked, with a blood-red-haired youth standing before him with royal purple eyes getting a nod. I'm being reincarnated to assist the possible millionth reincarnation of the person who took my role after I defeated Madara and the Jubi. I won't have my chakra, nor my Rinnegan, chakra chains, or any of my jutsu to fall back on, but my bending, which due to humanity losing the use of chakra after my departure have evolved into using an element called chi. Naruto surmised, getting a nod from the deity in front of him. It's been a couple hundred years since Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze Senju Uchiha has defeated Madara and the Jubi with the assistance of Kurama and his brothers and sisters who merged with him. To prevent humanity from repeating the process of bloodshed and hate, Naruto, like his ancestor before him, gave chakra. Naruto took it away with him as he vanished from the world, with him leaving as the last Biju in existence. That is correct, Sochi-kun. You are to help Korra in her quest to stop several threats from destroying the balance and Republic City, the figure said, reducing in size, becoming more curved and slender as her long vibrant red hair became obvious with her pristine white obi and kimono. Okay, I get that, Mom, but you never told me what kind of threat. Who is it, or what is it I have to help her with? Naruto asked with curiosity as he stood in front of his mother, who giggled into her hand. Well, besides herself with her hot temper and going at something half biped. You are to help me fight against a man who is trying to bring an end to benders and a man who is trying to end the avatar cycle and bring about the dark spirits, she said, getting a nod from him, showing him several images. So when am I supposed to go? Today? Next week? He asked, not liking the grin on her face. More like now, she said, noticing him fade from existence. What? Naruto said, vanishing from existence as Kushina saw one last image of Naruto up in her realm with Korra, one other woman and his new mother. Good luck, Sochi, she said to the space her son once stood. Hold on, Miss Bei Fong, I can see the head now, a woman said in front of a screaming woman who had a vice grip on her husband's hand. Tuck you, Shimura, next time we have children you're carrying the little bastard for 9 tucking months. Tuck. She roared in agony as her husband was frothing at the mouth, unable to say anything because her other hand was gripping his balls through his clothes, getting a pop. He thought in excruciating pain. There goes the left one, gasping for breath, he said weakly. It's okay, sweetie, just a little more. Cutting him off, she said, gripping tighter. Tuck you waterbending, you did this to me, and if I weren't in such excruciating pain I'd shove a metal pole the size of my mom's statue up your face and leave you there for all of Republic City. TOC. Alright, Lin, give me one more good strong push, the nurse said, guiding the woman while silently sympathizing with the agonizing husband, since this isn't the first, or will it be the last time she'll hear threats like that towards the husband, especially from the mouths of earth-bending women. She cried when a second softer cry was heard as the nurse clipped the umbilical cord, handing the bundle to her after she collapsed on the bed. Congratulations, Lin. Shimura, it's a beautiful baby boy, she said, showing the sleeping boy with whisker marks and black hair with gray streaks. Look at him, he's so beautiful, isn't he, Shimura? Lin said, getting a nod from her husband, brushing a hand through his own gray hair. That he is, Lin. Though just from looking at him he's going to be a mirror image of you if you were a boy, or spirits forbid your mother, he said with a shudder. Toph Bei Fong was an intimidating woman who could make the most frightening figures seem tame in comparison when faced with her legendary anger. What should we name him? He doesn't strike me as a stable person like Earthbender, Shimura said, getting a nod from Lin, who could tell by looking at him he wouldn't be like most Earthbenders. He'd possibly be a hectic, unrelenting force, like a whirlpool, that's it. Shimura said in excitement. What? And please ease up on the yelling, he's sleeping, she said tiredly, getting a nervous chuckle from the man as he heard the underlying threat. The name Whirlpool or Naruto, huh? What do you think? He said, looking at his son with a smile. Lin, contemplating as she looked at her son, nodded. Naruto Bei Fong, it has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? He nodded, kissing his wife of a year as they sat in silence watching their newborn son sleep when the door opened, showing a slightly aged Toph Bei Fong wearing her police uniform as Katara came in with her children Bumi, Tenzin with his wife, and Kia as Kia was gushing over little Naruto. "Hey Squirt Waterboy, what you name the squishy guy?" her mother asked, looking at her daughter. "Naruto after the whirlpool. It was Shimura's idea," Lin said, getting a nod from Shimura, who handed their son to Toph, who instantly turned to mush, holding Naruto in her arms. "He's going to be a heartbreaker in the future, Lin, I can see it," Katara said, checking him over, seeing he was perfectly healthy. "I can safely say he'll get his looks from his mom and personality too," Toph said, getting a nod from the others. "And me?" Shimura asked as the others stared at him, trying to think of what his and Lin's son would get from him. "Your ramen addictions," Tenzin said with a nod from the others, while said air bender got a glare from the water bender. "I'll crush any girl who comes near my son without a moment's hesitation," Lin said, getting a laugh from the gathered party. "I feel he's going to have an important role to play in the future," Kia said, making the others raise an eyebrow. "What makes you say that?" Lin asked as the others were curious as well. "Call it a hunch if you want, but it's the energy I feel coming from him that leads me to believe he'll be a greater water bender than you, Mom, and an even greater earth bender than you, Toph," Kia explained, getting a shrug from the head of the metal bending police force. "Wouldn't doubt it, the chi coming from him is immense. Why, if I didn't believe it I'd say he was the next Avatar, but it's too soon for that," Toph said, a little sad since Aang passed away a couple of years ago. Everyone continued talking and gushing over Naruto until a loud snore broke up the noise, making them see Lin asleep holding Naruto. "Let's get out of here." "All that must have wore her out," Katara said, getting a positive from the others as they crept out of the room, missing the tattoo of a dragon form from his wrist up to his arm, slightly coming over his right shoulder blade. 6 years later. "Come on Naruto, get into your horse stance," Toph said to her grandson as they stood in the Bei Fong home's vast backyard, and she was instructing him in the arts of earth bending with her daughter watching right behind her next to Kia. It's been 6 years since his birth and 5 years since Shimura's death as an accident when one of the many gangs attacked and killed him while he was in the middle of a job, but he wouldn't go down without swinging. He used his water bending to collapse the pipes around them, causing the house's structure to fall around them, catching some of the triple threats, weakening them, while the rest of the triple threats were under the anger of the recently promoted Captain Lin for attacking her and killing her husband and the father of her child, who was an honest natural at water bending and was a prodigy of earth bending. "Now mud slinger," she said with a grin, much to his ire. Granny Toph has been calling him either that or fish cake for as long as he could remember, and she wouldn't quit until she said he was either A, stronger than her, or B, change his name to something else, and he sure as hell wasn't going to do either. "I honestly wish you'd stop calling me that," Naruto remarked quietly under his breath, drawing a smirk from the women. "What was that, fish cake? You want double the training today?" "No problem, anything for my cute little grandson," Toph said, hearing him perfectly just like his mother and godmother Kia, who were both laughing, although Naruto didn't necessarily mind since this was helping him gain better control over his control over earth, like Kia and Katara has him work with his control over water since the time he pulled water from the air around him when he was 3. Again he grumbled when she asked him what he said. He responded, "Yes sure fu Toph, ready when you are." "Good, now be prepared because I'm coming at ya," Toph said as she got in her stance, wearing her training clothes consisting of shorts and a shirt, while Naruto was wearing the same with a set of bandages around his eyes with his hair in a loose ponytail. "Aren't you worried he might hurt himself, Lin? I mean, Toph seems to be working him a little harder than usual even for their standard training," Kia said, worried for her godson's safety since the last time he went through this type of training he came back with a dislocated shoulder and a fractured ankle and a minor concussion. "It's fine, Kia, I trust Mom, besides he's a tough boy and you can't forget he tends to heal rather quickly and he's made of stronger stuff than others even for an earthbender," she said, speaking the truth. Every time he suffers serious injuries or even a cut, it tends to heal from the span of either a couple of seconds or at the most a week, where it would take others longer, while his bones were as sturdy and dense as steel. "Yeah, but," Kia started when Naruto got blasted into the space between the two of them before he charged back at her. "I still can't help but worry. I mean he is my only godson, let alone any child I see as a nephew, since Tenzin is too much of a chicken to tie the knot with Pema. Poor girl, sometimes I feel my brother is leading her on, she said, getting a nod from Lin. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. It's been some time since the two got together and he hasn't even made a single move on her, she said with a nod. Kia, you might want to put fish cake to bed, kid's all tuckered out, but I gotta admit he's getting better, give him a few more years and he may just be better than me, Toph said, showing he did get a good show with a large bruise forming on her stomach, flinching when Kia touched it. Grabbing Naruto from her, Kia said, seems you've got a few bruised ribs, if not at least cracked. I swear he's going to surprise us even more. The two women nodded as Lin held her son on her back while he slept, exhausted from his training for the day, while in another part of the world another interesting event was taking place. In the Water Tribe. You wanted us to see something? A man asked, entering an igloo with two others as a husband and wife stepped aside. It better be important, otherwise this would have been a colossal waste of time, a second man said, walking in behind the first with a third following close by, when they were greeted by a 5-year-old girl shooting a small burst of fire, causing the second man's shirt to catch fire before stomping her foot, making the three fall on their back while water bending the small pool next to her at her feet to douse the fire, getting the three men wet. I'm the new avatar, so you better deal with it, the little girl said before stomping the ground, sending them out the house. I wish you didn't have your friend watch her that one time, she's become a lot like Han, her mother said, getting a chuckle from her father. I didn't necessarily think it was such a bad idea at the moment when Han offered some time ago, he said in his defense, getting a glare. And do you know another idea that isn't so bad in thought, dear husband? She said a little too sweetly, giving the man a bad feeling while their daughter stares with a questioning look. No, my dearest snowflake, he said fearfully. You will be sleeping in the living room tonight, she said, picking up her daughter, ignoring her husband's whimpering. Say night-night to Daddy, Korra, her mother said, getting a wide-eyed look from the husband. Night, Daddy, love you, Korra said sleepily, getting a wave goodbye in return. Night, sweetie, love you too, he said as the door shut, making him smack his forehead. Stupid Han, I told you not to do anything like that in front of Korra, and you pull that stunt, he grumbled under his breath, lying on the floor near the fire, staying warm. Sniffing, he turned his back to the fire as the lights cut off, leaving only the dancing lights of the flames to act as a source of light, thinking, stupid Han. 2 years later. You want to learn what now? Lin asked, sitting at the table with her son 2 years later as she and her son attended the funeral of her mother who died in her sleep. She left Naruto her chunk of space earth, which she fashioned as an armband. I want to learn chi blocking, he said, causing his mother to raise an eyebrow. Her son had the promise to become not only a masterful earth bender that could rival the Avatar when in the Avatar state, same for his water bending and the dreaded blood bending when he accidentally killed a man who broke into his childhood friend / fiancé Asami's home and killed her mother. While he may not use his bending all too much unless necessary, he is still joining the metal bending police when he's older. And why in the world would you want to learn something like that? She asked curiously. To her it wasn't that bad an idea and was an interesting prospect in case you couldn't bend anymore. It was something to fall back on so you're not completely defenseless. She even knows how and is quite the professional at the style, although she doesn't use it. Well, there isn't really much of a reason to use bending on the non-benders, Mom. You and Granny always told me as the police we defend the community and those who can't defend themselves. There are civilians who think we benders are taking advantage of them or make them feel like second-class citizens and try to revolt. I want to learn so I can stop the non-benders without causing them harm and to calm their fears that we're using our power to repress them, he explained, making a valid point. The non-benders of Republic City have come to feel like they're being repressed as there aren't that many jobs for them, since the benders have the real jobs and what jobs they do have aren't that glamorous in design, or they work under the benders. Surprised and curious, she asked, and how do you know that, young man? Shrugging, he said, Mom, what do you think I do when I'm not in school or with Asami? We've constantly heard of civilians talking about how we suppress them or make them feel like they're second class. It helps that I'm well liked by both benders and non-benders alike. She had to give him that one. Her son, while a troublemaker, made the pencil-pushing humdrum life of Republic City pleasant with his pranks. Besides, they never cause any harm, just to give the people a chuckle or two, and then there are his moments when he helps people who need it, like the orphanage the council refuses to help. He went down there and not only used his own 2 hands to give the less fortunate a proper home, but he told the council off when they demanded he stopped. Lin had to laugh at that 1 and 8-year-old telling the council of Republic City to piss off and shove their demands up their uptight ass. She wanted to be mad at him for his use of language, but he was doing what was right and word spread about his various kind deeds. I suppose you make a fair point, son. So you intend to use these lessons to not only stop the benders oppressing the people but to get the people to realize that not all benders are as bad as they believe we are. She surmised, getting a nod from her son, impressed with his resolve. Looking at him sternly, she said, well, I do know how to chi block from learning it as a child. If you're serious about this, I can help teach you and Asami if she's interested, which might be useful to keep you in line, son. He laughed with a roll of the eye. Oh, you're a riot, mom. You and Asami both have me pigeon squirrel toed, you with discipline, while Asami, who oddly enough is persistent on me getting involved with another woman, why I don't know, nor will I ever, especially since I'm only 8. If there's one thing you should know about Asami's mother is that she was the one that wore the pants in the relationship and was an odd woman with a lot of quirks, Lin said, not wanting to jumpstart her little boy's imagination of sex. You mean her sexual quirks? He asked, getting a raised eyebrow from his mother. What? Me and Asami found out a while ago when we were 6 playing hide and seek in the house, a shock that such a kind woman had such sadistic and masochistic quirks and interests. I just pray Asami doesn't turn out like her, he said with a shudder, not too thrilled on the thought of whips and such. Lin said, laughing, well, you can only hope so, Naruto, because her mother ended up exactly like her mother before her. Odds aren't looking too well for you or any woman that tags along with you, and Asami for that matter. Letting his head hit the table, he said, you're kidding. Receiving a negative, he groaned as she sipped on her coffee, patting him on the head, thinking, oh son, you have no idea what type of torture you're getting yourself into. So how are things in the academy? Are you doing well in your studies? She asked, curious about his grades in the Metal Benders Police Academy. It was for Earth Benders to participate in the class to earn their position in the force. Lifting his head, he said flatly, Mom, you drilled every bit of important information into my head since I first attended last year. Frankly, compared to learning from you, it's all rather dull learning something that you already know. True, but the teachers tell me you tend to sleep during the classes. I know the lectures are boring, but you have to at least pretend to care, she said, getting a nod. I know, but I can't help it. My grades are at the top and I'm the best in the practices and stuff, but just listening to the teachers drone on monotonously is a real pain. I mean, I could rather watch paint dry on a dry wall than listen to someone talk with zero emotion or effort to keep your attention, he explained. She couldn't fault him for that. She was the same when she was in the academy, so she said, all right, but can you at least promise to try and not fall asleep during the lectures? I don't want to deal with the teachers or principal calling me to say my son fell asleep again. He nodded, getting a small smile from his mother, a treat that was rare in itself, something he enjoyed immensely since she only smiled on rare occasions. Now you're about to be late to meet Asami at her school since you didn't have classes today, she said, getting a wide-eyed look from her son, which she laughed at. I forgot. I'm not even dressed, why didn't you tell me sooner? He exclaimed, running to his room as she shrugged. Watching him run around, she said, I thought you were just going to meet her dressed as you were. Besides, you promised Asami to meet her. I didn't think you'd need me to remind you of your own obligations. Aw man, last time I was late she gave me the silent treatment for a week, he groaned, running out the house with his feet bandaged while he wore a black jacket over a brown muscle shirt and gray shorts. Making a whipping sound, Naruto shouted out the door, I heard that. You were supposed to. She responded with a chuckle as the door slammed shut. At Asami's school. He's late, again, Asami groaned, sitting on a bench wearing her uniform comprised of a black shirt with a red skirt and shoes with her bag next to her. You'd think he'd remember that normal schools end at 3 in the afternoon by now, one of her friends said, getting a nod from her. Yes, but he's always been a bit of a scatterbrain since I could remember. It's one of the things I love about him, she said with a sigh, waiting for her fiancé to arrive for the last 10 minutes. Ah, huff, sorry, I'm not too late, am I? He asked as her friends quickly ran, making him sweat because whenever she's angry those two run like badger moles after a fresh meal. Oh, not really, except I've been sitting here like a lonely girl for 10 minutes. What took you? She said sternly, making him cower. I had overslept this morning since I didn't have classes at the academy today, and when I made a late breakfast with Mom since she didn't have to work till later we started talking when I just learned you got out, he explained, getting a blank stare from his future wife. You stopped by the ramen stand on the way here, didn't you? She stated, making him straighten up. What do you mean? I ran from my house to here, I couldn't have the chance to get any, he said lamely before she plucked a fish cake off his cheek, knowing he was officially screwed. And do tell me, oh sweet future husband of mine, what this is on your cheek. She said blandly, making him drop his head, realizing he was caught. Nothing to say for yourself? She said, getting a shake of the head, while the couples passing by had to admit the sight was rather cute, seeing the two act like a married couple already, while the men were sympathetic towards him, knowing what it's like to get your hand caught in the cookie jar. You know what this means, don't you, sweetie? She asked, getting a nod from him as he picked up her bag. Carry me home please, she asked kindly, making him pick her up princess style as they walked off as the women cooed. Yes mistress, he said with a bit of humor in his voice, making the women envious that she got such a prize, wishing their boyfriends/husbands would do such things for them. Asami's room. A little lower, she moaned as Naruto sat on her hips, massaging her back as Naruto told her of his conversation with his mother. So Lin wants to teach me and chi blocking as a form of self-defense so I wouldn't be completely defenseless against benders, she said, getting a positive from Naruto. Well, in her words, so you can keep me in line, but yes, that too, he said when she flipped them over as he laid on his back with her wrapping her arms around his waist. I don't need to learn how to keep you in check, buddy, but it would be useful to know against benders and non-benders, she said with her head resting on his chest. Sitting up, she said, but why do you want to learn it, Mr. Water/Earth Bender Extraordinaire? Well, I don't see a use for using my bending on non-benders, and they already believe benders are treating them like second-class citizens. I want to try and change their opinion, if not at least slightly, he said, giving the same reason he did for his mother. She shrugged, laying back down on top of him, asking, can you stay here for a while longer until it's time for you to go? I had a tough time at school and I just want to be around you. He patted her back, giving a positive as she soon fell asleep with him combing his hand through her hair, since her fear was prominent since her mother's death, thinking he'd die too, which he assured her wasn't going to happen, not anytime soon. Brushing her hair, he said quietly, I'm not going anywhere, Asami, no need to worry. Hearing this, she sighed softly before completely drifting off to sleep with a smile as he soon joined her. Hey Chief, finished that report as you requested, a now 17-year-old Naruto said, now standing at an impressive 5 feet 9 inches, wearing the metal bending force uniform with bronze lining, walking into the chief's office with a stack of papers in hand. His whisker marks had become more defined, with his hair coming down to his shoulders in a spiky mess, with it coming slightly over his eyes, with his steel gray eyes shining. Thank you, Naruto, heard you took down the triple threats today, any trouble? His mother Lin asked, leading the force, getting a negative from her pride and joy as he sat on the corner of her desk. Not in the slightest, really, if anything they were too easy. Although I heard a transmission from the radio about Amon, the guy seems to really know how to get people, practically every non-bender has an ear out for him, he said with a sigh which she could understand. It's been a few years since this masked man came out and started preaching about the evils of benders and their oppression. Naruto does what he can to appease the masses, but with things are getting, and Republic City could expect a revolt at the rate he's going, and her son's efforts can only do so much with this happening, with him being the only bender trying, along with his mother and Tenzin and a few small groups around Republic City doing their best to show benders aren't oppressing anyone. We can only do so much, son, you know that. If only we could find this Amon to begin with, for starters, or even a hint of who he is, Lin said with a heavy sigh, pinching the bridge of her nose in irritation. All we can do is what we have been and hope we find something out. Anything would greatly be useful, to be honest, Naruto said, getting a nod as she pushed her papers to the side, giving her undivided attention to her only child. So Naruto, what are you making for dinner tonight? Lin asked, getting a blank expression from her son, knowing she always tried to get him to cook. After that time she came home exhausted to see him at the stove preparing a complete meal that wasn't burnt or raw and tasted like it came from a high-class restaurant, and fell in love with his cooking instantly, as did Asami, much to his embarrassment. I've spoiled you and Asami both with my cooking, you know that? He said, getting a snort. That a problem, son? A man that knows how to cook or clean up after himself or dress like he has sense are all fine catches. And you're all three you're a catch son appreciate that because I know Asami does she said with a grin making him blush getting a chuckle to rise from her throat. Thought so but really what's for dinner? She asked with a serious expression making him chuckle. Well I've pretty much cooked everything at least once this month so sea salt ramen I suppose or miso Naruto said getting a dreamy expression from her making him chuckle knowing one thing she adopted from her late husband was his addiction to ramen and while she and Naruto don't eat it on a daily basis they did so on a bi-weekly basis if she had her way if Naruto didn't say if he was cooking he was only doing it twice a week for a week each month. Who sounds good to me she said getting a snort from her son sending her an incredulous look making her chuckle. Of course that sounds good to you mom. Although I feel I may have to bend that rule for this week for some reason Naruto said as an afterthought getting a raised eyebrow. Why do you say that Naruto? She asked getting a shrug as Naruto contemplated before standing up stretching. Don't know but I feel like Republic City is going to be pretty interesting in the coming week Naruto said before walking out of her office after giving her a hug. I got a small bit of paperwork to do and I'll be finished soon Naruto said as he walked out the door making her sigh with a small smile. And make it on time to pick up Asami? She said making him fumble out the door shooting her a glare seeing her late husband and her son doing the same when her mother was in charge as she chuckled. Sometime later. Man I gotta thank Asami for this gift again this thing kicks. Naruto said driving his motorcycle down the street seeing Asami just walk out of the school as he pulled to a stop as she walked out growing over the 8 years looking like a younger version of her late mother wearing a pair of pants and shoes with a black jacket that had her family's company logo on the back in red with light lipstick and eyeshadow on. Hey love how was the lecture? He said pulling out a spare helmet for her as she smiled kissing his cheek sitting behind him wrapping her arms around his waist as she got behind him driving off. It was so dull. I mean you'd think being a teacher or at least an instructor would be interesting but it really isn't she said getting a laugh from her husband after they reached the age of consent before she pinched his cheek. It isn't funny. I almost fell asleep from my own lecture you know. I would like it if you'd come to the next one I have and talk about your time on the force she said repositioning her arms so they were on his chest. Well I don't really mind but wouldn't my mom be a better speaker than I am? She is the chief he said before making a turn through the streets. Well I do agree you know Lynn isn't going to go along with it. It's just not her thing to do public speaking you remember the press conference last year? She said making him nod while his mom did do the public speaking she was rather curt and short with everyone while he fielded everyone's questions and answered to the best of his abilities. I guess you're right, he said as they continued their drive quietly before Asami picked up on his silence. You okay Naru? She asked getting a sigh. I honestly can't put my finger on it but I just feel like something's going to happen sometime in the week, something that will make Republic City a little more hectic he said before she meshed herself against him. What do you mean? She asked resting her chin on his shoulder. I mean since Amon came around things have already gotten tense around here and if it's not Amon then it's Councilman Tarlock. I just can't shake the feeling that the universe hasn't completely thrown its hand yet he said getting a nod from Asami since Tarlock has been trying to get hold of Naruto for publicity and raise his grip on Republic City for some time due to the respect he's gained from the populace which Naruto shot down at every attempt made despite the various incentives he made. Well let's head to my house and I'll do something special to help get your mind off that nasty feeling you're getting with a better one she purred making him shiver hearing the lust in her voice while speeding up reaching her home. Asami's room a bit of lime folks. Walking into her room she locked her door after tossing her shirt off as Naruto followed removing his metal bender uniform as she sat in his lap engaging him in a tongue war combing her manicured nails through his scalp. Moaning she said gasping feeling one of Naruto's hands grope her chest while the other was on her firm rear oh god I hate that you can't stay longer. Kissing her neck getting a louder moan he said slipping his hand into her pants I know but for now let's just enjoy ourselves for the moment. Shivering as he laid her down removing her bra from her perky cup breast kissed her before taking one nub into his mouth gently sucking it as he fingered her folds causing her back to arc as he curled his fingers while kissing his way down her toned body from learning chi blocking. Pulling her pants off he said now that those pesky clothes are out of the way let's get to the real fun. Kissing her inner thigh, making her gasp, feeling his breath reach closer to her drenched sex, she brought her hand down to one of his as she grabbed it and brought it back up to her breast, making him comply as he went back to massaging and teasing her sensitive mounds. Oh spirits! Naruto, I love you so much. Asami panted, feeling her climax reach its peak as she felt his tongue circle around her sensitive bundle of nerves before closing his lips around it and sucked on it hard before gently biting it, making her hit her wall as her juices sprayed across his face and into his waiting mouth, trying to get more out of her before she collapsed onto the bed huffing in ecstasy. Oh spirits, that was amazing. She gasped, trying to regain her breath, pulling him up to her as she kissed him before flipping them over with her on top, feeling the growing tent in his pants as she smiled. But you could use a bit of relief, soldier boy, she said, sliding down his chest, feeling his muscles along the way before seeing her prize as she pulled his pants down to see his 12-member stand at attention. Groaning, he said, feeling her tongue glide across his rigid length, I wish we could work off a bit more stress, but I'm going to have to head back home soon. Her eyes shone with mirth as she sucked on the head hard, getting a teeth-gnashing groan while twirling her tongue around the head before letting go, saying, then we better hurry before Lin comes tearing Republic City down looking for you. He chuckled before a shiver ran through his spine as she took one of his balls on her mouth, sucking on it before letting it go with a pop as she trailed her tongue along the long member before engulfing the entire thing as the two shared eye contact before she started bobbing her head slowly. Groaning from the feeling of her warm mouth shift on his member while her tongue continued to twirl around it, she speed up, trying to milk him for all he's worth before taking him completely in her mouth as the rest was hitting the back of her throat as she used her tongue to scrub the underside while humming, making him grit his teeth as he combed his hand through her hair, making her give what sound like a purr. Ugh spirits, Asami, I am almost there. He groaned as she doubled her efforts before she felt his hand on the back of her head, completely sheathing his member in her throat, shooting off several large doses of his seed which she gulped down greedily, moaning all the while egging another dose of semen to pool in her stomach. Lime over. Removing him from her mouth, she licked her lips with a satisfied grin before kissing his cheek, saying, that was satisfying. I'd prefer if we could continue, but I highly doubt Lin would be thrilled to know her son was late coming home because he was getting a bit of nookie in after last time. He had to suppress a shudder, remembering when the two first celebrated their relationship. It lasted into the evening way past when Naruto was supposed to be home when they were interrogated by his mom and her dad. It was even more embarrassing because they were right outside Asami's door when they walked out. Let's just say the threat Lin gave wasn't one they wanted to call her bluff on, and they've been trying to have as much time together as possible while being sure to keep within the time frame, so Lin didn't follow through with her threats. Pulling their clothes back on, he sighed, kissing her on the lips, saying, I'll see you soon, love. Nodding as she pulled her arms around his neck before kissing him again as said, I know you do know eventually we'll have to get our own place, right? He nodded with a smile as he kissed her one last time as he put his uniform back on before walking out the house as she sighed, watching him from her window. I wonder if there's any good multi-bedroom homes here for a decent price, she thought, watching him fade from her vision before plopping back down on the bed, holding the pillow her husband's head laid onto her chest before falling asleep. Water Tribe White Lotus Training Fields. Dodging a blast of fire, a dark-skinned girl wearing red armor kicked a stream of fire at one of her opponents, launching him back. As she landed, she looked to the left, seeing two more as both sent a stream of fire at her which she dispersed. One sent another stream before charging as he continued his assault, followed by the other as he flanked right, only for her to dodge and snuff out another flame before she met the main attacker's charge, who jumped in the air, making her go for a forward roll, letting her heel connect to his foot, making him fall to the ground behind her as the other came in front of her. Attacking together, one charged at her from behind while the other sent two jets of fire out at her, which she repelled by kicking the first man back and snuffing out the flames before sending out her own, knocking him back before turning in time to block an attack from the previously downed man before the two started to attack her from both sides. With the overlookers. She's improved greatly over the course of her training, an elderly woman said, watching as one of the fighters was sent onto the roof of where they were standing. A portly man snorted, saying haughtily, she may be strong but she still lacks restraint. Watching the girl and the man charge, he created a constant stream of fire which the girl charged into before coming out the other end and scathed, surprising the man before using his shoulders as a springboard and launched herself into the air, send a last attack, effectively rendering him unable to continue. Woohoo! Who's your girl? They heard her say in triumph while they remained stoic, making her sigh before coming over, removing her helmet, showing her dark brown hair which was in a high ponytail with 2 blue bands holding her bangs. What's with all the doom and gloom, people? We should be celebrating. I've got 3 elements down and 1 left to master, she said, her crystal blue eyes shining with mirth before a man wearing red robes said. You're getting ahead of yourself, Korra, as usual, he said, getting her attention as she stared at him in curiosity. What do you mean? She asked, not understanding, as he sighed. We have still yet to decide if you passed your fire-bending test yet, you know, he said, getting a sigh from the rebellious 17-year-old as the man next to him added. Ever since you were a little girl, Korra, you've excelled at the physical side of bending, but you've continued to ignore the spiritual side of it, he said, as Korra had a bored expression on her face as he continued. The avatar must both to properly do their job, Korra, he said, getting a sigh from the girl, letting her shoulders sag. It's not that I've ignored it, it's just that it doesn't come as easy to me like the others did. But that's why I should start training with Tenzin immediately. He's leaking spiritual enlightenment, she said, trying to defend her case as the others looked to the elderly woman as the same man said. And what do you believe, Master Katara? Do you believe she's ready? He asked, getting a nod from the elderly woman. Yes, if anyone can teach her what she needs to learn, it's Tenzin for sure, she said, as the others relented as they permitted her to begin her air-bending training. Yes, finally, she said, grinning before looking at the others before coughing into her hand, correcting herself. I mean, thank you all so much for believing in me, she said, smiling before running off, waving Katara goodbye as the elderly woman smiled watching her run off. Water Tribe Stables. Naga, you should have seen me today. The girl said, running into the stables as a large white bundle uncurled itself, showing a mix between a dog and a polar bear as it padded over towards her, tail wagging, happy to see her friend. I kicked some serious firebender tail today and I passed. Tenzin's going to be here in a few days and I'm so excited, she said, hugging her lifelong companion before laughing as her friend licked her before putting its saddle on its back, shedding her padding, now wearing a dark blue fur jacket. Wanna go get some exercise after being cooped up in here all day? She said, getting a bark from her companion as it allowed her to hop on its back like a horse before riding her through the grounds to the gate as the guard looked down at her boredly. Mind opening the gate? Naga has to get her exercise in for today, she said, only to get a raised eyebrow from the man who stared at her skeptically. Come on. We won't go far, besides where can we go? The next ship out of here is a couple days away, you know, she said, getting a shrug as she made her point as the 2 large doors slid open, letting the 2 charge out of the gate, letting the large creature get its exercise for the day until the sun began to set. Korra's family home. Standing outside with her mother, father and Katara leaning against Naga, they could hear the voice of a child asking a barrage of questions as a flying bison flew overhead before landing before them, when the one on the head of the massive creature said with his son gnawing on his head, yes, Ikki, at last we are finally here. On the saddle of the bison were 2 girls and a pregnant woman, as many knew were their kids. His oldest daughter Jinora, second oldest Ikki, his only son Milo, and his loving wife Penma. Excited, the 2 girls formed balls of air as they rode down the sky bison's tail as Tenzin helped his wife down before he bowed to Katara. Hello mother, I can't tell you how happy I am to see you. Coming closer, he whispered so only she could hear, please, help me. Giving a silent laugh, she helped her son as she grabbed Milo, who started to flail around before he flew over her head as she said, it's so good to see all of you. Jinora said, hugging her, said, Gran, it's so good to see you. I've been reading on all of your adventures, but I have to ask, whatever happened to Zuko's mom? As she was about to answer, Ikki interrupted, asking a series of questions without end, making her sister give her a blank stare before she sighed as Katara walked over to Penma, hugging her. The baby's strong. I can see another powerful airbender in your future, Penma, my dear, Katara said, getting frantic look on her daughter-in-law's face. All I want is one child like myself, a nice non-bender who doesn't blast wind in my face every 5 seconds, she said, getting an amused look on Katara and the others' face as they all turned to Milo, who proved her point, covering her face in snow from an air-bending move. Shaking the snow out of her hair, she said, exasperated, were Tenzin and his siblings like this? Laughing, she said, looking at Tenzin, Kia and Bumi were as children, but Tenzin was always just so serious. Proving her point as he begged her to stop before he saw Korra leaning to the side from behind Katara as she ran up, allowing him to hug her. They all continued to talk until the concept of her training came up, showing he had a look of disappointment on his face as Penma said, "You're going to have to tell her sooner or later." Confused, she looked at Tenzin, wondering what his wife meant, until Katara spoke up, "You're not staying, are you?" He sighed, "No, we'll be here for the night and then we must return to Republic City, to handle some business." You could see the disappointment in her eyes as Korra said, "What, but, no, you're supposed to move here to teach me how to airbend." Putting his hands on her shoulders he said, "I'm so sorry Korra, but your training will have to wait for a little while longer." As they all headed into the dining room, Korra asked, sitting across from Tenzin, "So how long will my training be postponed for? A week, a month or 2? Why do we have to wait?" He said simply, "It may be longer than that Korra. I have a responsibility to Republic City. I'm one of its leaders and the city is in a bit of an unrest at the moment." Confused she asked, "Unrest? What's the problem?" Conflicted he thought, "I don't want her getting involved." "Tenzin, what unrest?" Korra asked again as he sighed. "Just a bit of tension between the non-benders and the benders. That's why we can't stay, because I'm needed in trying to calm the strife between the two," he said, causing the girl to drop her head for a moment before it popped back up. "Wait, if you can't stay, why don't I just come with you and you can train me on your spare time?" She proposed, getting shot down instantly by one of the overseers from before. Sighing she said, "True, but with Tenzin going to Republic City I don't have an air bending teacher to help me learn air bending and there are no air benders here." Interjecting, Tenzin said, "I know how you feel Korra, but now just isn't the right time to begin your training, I'm sorry." Aggravated she said, walking out the door, "Whatever. Water Tribe Peaks." Sitting at the top of the peaks, Korra and Naga watched Tenzin and his family fly off while Naga whined, feeling her friend's disappointment. Sitting on her back, Korra stared before her eyes shone with determination as she rode back home. Later that night, sneaking out of her home, Korra walked to Naga's place, silently telling Naga to be quiet as she placed the saddle on her back when she heard a voice from behind her. "Nice night for an escape, isn't it, Korra?" Startled she jumped to see Katara standing behind her with a smile before she explained her reasons as the elderly woman smiled, saying, "I understand, Korra. Aang's time has long since passed. Many of my friends have also reached their end at some point or another, much like my brother Sokka and his wife Suki as well." Putting her hands on Korra's shoulders she said, "It's time for the newer generation to make their footnote in the world and keep the balance in the world, and you can't do that by being cooped up like some caged animal here." Happy she hugged Katara as she left, telling her parents goodbye as she used her water bending to form a tunnel under the wall, allowing the two to leave. As they found a cargo boat heading to Republic City, the two snuck on and stowed away, sleeping for the long trip. Republic City the next day. "Come on Kai, what did I tell you about this sort of thing? It isn't a good deal, man," Naruto said in his street clothes, placing his hands on the offender's shoulder as he looked down to see a man a couple years his senior. Sigh. "I know Naruto, it's just with the jobs as scarce as they are I don't really have much options to pick from, you know," he said, getting a sympathetic pat on the back as Naruto sat next to him. "I know, but you gotta think about your family. I'm going to let you go if you promise me you'll quit this nonsense and find a job, or even start one for that matter, like a bookstore or something," Naruto said, getting an appreciative smile from him as he nodded, getting a nod in return as he let him walk away. "Son, if you're done with the good guy thing I must let you know there is a disturbance reported near the shopping district." His mom's voice came in on a radio speaker in his ear, making him sigh. "Ah, I was just letting the guy go. He didn't do anything too serious, you know, just some petty muggings, and that was barely. And as for the disturbance, I'm nowhere near there in the first place. I'm in the storage district," he said, getting an irritated groan on the other end. "Granted, but I suggest you get the lead out. We have a gang harassing a shop owner," she said, getting a positive. "Got it, I'm heading there now," he said, cutting the connection as he used his metal bending to ride the lines overhead, jumping to the next as he made his way to the site of the disturbance. Republic City Shopping District. "Well, hello, what have we here?" Naruto said curiously as he watched a dark-skinned girl wearing primary shades of blue handle a gang that he was assigned to handle with ease, albeit with a bit of recklessness involved as she destroyed a bit of property in the process when the other metal bender police came in an attempt to arrest her. "Oh, that is going to leave bruise on both Shang's face tomorrow, and his ego for a lifetime," Naruto said with a grin before running from the rooftops into a nearby alley. With Korra. Man, what's with these guys? I stopped the bad guys and I'm the one who gets arrested. What kind of backward city is this? Korra thought, ridding on Naga, looking for a place to hide as she saw a hand in the shadows wave towards her, making her guide Naga into the large alley and hid away as the police just passed by. My, that was a close one, huh? Must have done something pretty bad to get so many metal benders on your tail, she heard, making her jump, while Naga growled, seeing a boy as tall as her wearing a pair of black pants, a gray sleeveless muscle shirt under a dark brown sleeveless vest with a hood attached, which he pulled down, causing the girl to blush, seeing his black hair come past his shoulders as they gray and it glinted in the light with his fox-like expression and his whiskers. Easy girl, I'm not here to harm ya, he said, cooing at the large creature as he rubbed Naga's ears, getting her to lay down instantly. See, I mean you no harm, he said, opening his eyes as blue met gray before getting a grin. Nice to meet ya, I'm Naruto, and judging by the looks of things you could use a friend at the moment, Naruto said with his hands behind his head as Korra sighed. I'm Korra and I just got off a cargo boat from the South Pole. If you don't mind my asking, why are we in an alley anyway? You aren't a hoodlum, are you? She asked suspiciously, making him open an eye before chuckling as that turned into full-blown laughter. Me a hoodlum? Sorry, I may be a trickster and a clown every now and again, but I am by no means a hoodlum, he said, laughing, making her huff, making him calm down. Sorry, but what was with those guys? I didn't do anything wrong but help those people and I'm the one who gets arrested. She asked, getting a sigh. Yeah, well, you also caused a bit of property damage in the process, he said, making her deflate a bit, remembering that. And then there's the fact you kicked a officer in the face. I doubt he's going to be too thrilled about that one, he added, making her collapse to her knees until Naruto patted her on the shoulder. But it's fine, you're with your own personal tour guide and I'll show you all the ins and outs as well as the do's and don'ts of Republic City, he said with his hand out for her to grab as he pulled her up, allowing her to stand. But what about the police? She asked, getting on Naga as Naruto walked out of the alley, only getting a grin. Still grinning, he said, oh, don't worry, they won't mess with me if they know what's good for them. Come on, it's still early and I bet you two ladies are pretty hungry and I know the perfect place for a quick, fulfilling meal. Looking down at Naga, who had a pleading look on her face, she relented, saying, lead the way then, Naruto. They walked out of the alley next to Naruto, who put his hood back on. Time skip. To be honest, Korra was surprised everyone in Republic City seemed to have a strong love for Naruto, from the civilians to the benders, despite the small factions. And to be honest, she couldn't blame them for liking him. What wasn't there to like? He was nice, caring, social, and helpful as well, and to top it off, he was an earthbender, although he didn't really look the part as some were overly muscular or overly defined. Lieutenant, you have a target in your sight, shall we deal with her? He heard in his earpiece, making him tisk at the interruption. Quickly he whispered as to not raise suspicion. It's fine, go about your business, I have it under control here. Have what under control? Korra asked, riding Naga as she looked over, seeing Naruto having an alarmed look on his face. Oh, nothing, I was saying the police sure have things under control here. So Korra, I gotta ask, what else was it you wanted to do? He asked, getting a questioning look from the girl as she shrugged. Well, I doubt he's here yet, so wherever you want to go is cool, I suppose, she said, getting a grin in exchange as he nodded. Well, I have a bit of business to handle, you could say, and being in the presence of a pretty woman would make the day perfect, Naruto said, getting a blush from the girl as she sputtered. Well, if that's what you want, fine, I suppose, she said, trying to control her stutter as she followed him. After a few moments of silence, she asked, so Naruto, what made you come to Republic City? Yawning, he said, stretching, I didn't really chose to come here so much as I was born and raised here. I know every nook and cranny like the back of my hand, as well as all the shortcuts. Confused, she asked, why do you know all of that? Shrugging, he said, well, with how big Republic City is, it's easy to get lost or wind up in the more shady parts of it, so you gotta know how to get somewhere fast and the best way to get there. That's good, I guess, she said, confused, until they came to a stop in front of the metal bending police headquarters. Confusion could be seen on Korra's face as she dismounted off of Naga, who sat on her haunches in confusion as well, until she saw Naruto's hand extended, which she took and shook with a closed-eyed smile. Thanks, Korra, and no hard feelings, all right? He said, much to her confusion, until she heard a click, making her look at her hands to see a pair of metal cuffs on her hands, while Naga's paws were encased in earth, much to her shock, as her feet were soon encased as well. Naruto, what's the big idea? she said, alarmed before she saw him holding a badge, as other metal benders soon surrounded them as she read the ID on it. Lieutenant Naruto Beifong. Of Republic City's metal bending police force. She read, much to her shock, as the picture had the same face as Naruto's, but this one lacked the carefree expression or enjoyment she experienced today, as she almost flinched from the cold expression the photo held. Sorry to trick you like this, Korra, but you did assault an officer of the law. You have to at least answer to that avatar or not, he said as she sighed, holding her head down until he put his hand on her shoulder, making her look at him. Why did you trick me? She asked angrily, getting a sad expression in return. Trust me when I say if I had the choice I wouldn't have, but it is my job as a member of the force to uphold the law. I did enjoy hanging out though, he said with a smile at the end, which she kinda enjoyed, seeing he was at least apologetic about all this. Take Naga to the animal pen until Korra can pick her up. You got that, Naruto said to one of the officers, only to get a snort before Naruto used his earth bending to make him slide across the floor till he was nose to nose with Naruto. I'm sorry, what was that? I could have sworn I heard a snort come from you. Are you a pig all of a sudden? Naruto asked with a dangerous undertone, making him avert his gaze. No sir, sorry sir, I'll get to that this instant, he said, quickly grabbing Naga's reins as he ran off with the polar bear dog. What was that about? Korra asked as she was led through the building as he sighed. Some people here on the force aren't too keen on me being a lieutenant, and after my mom steps down chief of the force, and they're quite vocal about that. They feel that I'm receiving special attention being the chief's son, so they feel like I don't deserve to wear the uniform, he said with a tired sigh as she looked at the others and back at him. Why aren't you wearing the uniform? She asked, getting a chuckle from him. Would you believe this was my day off? He said, making her laugh, from the Southern Water Tribe girl. Let's see. Lin said as she paced in front of Korra, who had her hands still bound by the metal cuffs. Multiple counts of destruction of private and city property. Not to mention evading arrest, which we'll overlook as Naruto brought you in, but regardless you seem to be in a serious mess of trouble, Lin said, slamming her hand on the table, looking Korra in the eye. But there were some thugs harassing those shopkeepers. I couldn't just, she started before Lin cut her off. You should have called for the police and stayed out of the way, Lin said, getting protest from the Water Tribe girl. I couldn't just sit by and do nothing. It's my duty to help people. I'm the avatar, you see, she said, getting an appraising look from Lin. I'm more than aware of who you are. The report the shopkeepers gave on you using water, fire and earth bending makes that blaringly obvious, and while your avatar title might impress others, I'm going to tell you this now. It doesn't impress me, she said, narrowing her eyes. Fine then, let me talk to whoever's in charge. I want to talk to Naruto's mother, Korra said, getting a grin from Lin. You're talking to her? The name is Lin Beifong. Chief Lin Beifong, head of the metal bending police force, Lin said, making Korra raise an eyebrow before she thought it over before a light bulb went off in her head. Wait, Beifong. You're Toph's daughter, and that makes Naruto her grandson, she said, getting a questioning look followed by a nod from the leader. Then why are you treating me like a criminal? Avatar Aang and your mom were friends, they saved the world together, Korra said, getting a sigh from Lin. Exactly that, it's ancient history, and it has nothing to do with the mess you're in now, she said, standing from her seat. You can't just walk in my town and dole out vigilante justice like you own the place, Lin continued, and the window opened to show a man with a footprint on his face, giving Korra a dark look all the while. Chief Beifong. Councilman Tenzin is here, he said, getting a sigh from Lin. Let him in, Lin said, getting a nod from the man as the window closed before Tenzin walked in with a small glare on his face. Sorry Tenzin, I got a little sidetracked on my way to see you, Korra said sheepishly as he took a deep breath before turning to Lin. Lin, you're looking radiant as usual, he said, getting a blank expression from Lin. Cut the garbage, Tenzin. Why is the avatar in Republic City when she should be back in the South Pole with you learning airbending? She asked, getting a sigh. My relocation was delayed. The avatar on the other hand will be heading back to the South Pole immediately, where she will stay put until I come and train her, he said, getting protest from Korra before he cut her off. If you would be so kind, Lin, and drop the charges on Korra, I and Naruto, he started before getting a glare from Lin. Don't involve my son. Lin growled, getting a single eye to open. While Naruto and I take full responsibility for her actions and cover all the damages, he said, ignoring the deep growl coming from Lin's chest before relenting. Fine, get her out of my sight and out of my city, Lin said, getting a nod from Tenzin. It was a pleasure, Lin, he said before he was pushed against the metal wall by Lin being held by his robes. And if you ever pull something like this with my son and use him for whatever goes on in that bald head of yours, I will personally see to it that the council is missing a member. And you know I am more than capable of doing so with no chance of me being caught, Lin threatened, getting a hesitant nod as he and Korra were allowed out. Animal stables. Tenzin, please don't send me back, Korra begged while Tenzin ignored her. You blatantly disregarded my wishes and the order of the White Lotus, he said, getting a sigh from the waterbender. But Katara agreed with me on my choice of coming here, saying my destiny is here in Republic City, she said, getting a heated glare from Tenzin. Don't bring my mother into this, he said when he heard a laugh from the stables to see Naruto sitting with Naga rubbing her head. Man, good one, Korra. The last time I saw his face get that red was when me and his son Milo dyed all of his robes hot pink. Good times, Naruto said as he got up with Naga, allowing the large dog to stand as he guided her out of the stable. Tenzin, let's be honest with what's going on in Republic City. I hold zero doubt that you will be able to teach Korra air bending, especially when a threat can come up at any moment, and the sooner she learns air bending the sooner she can be prepared for whatever comes her way. Besides, do you really want to explain to Granny Katara why you sent this innocent face home? Naruto said, pointing to Korra, who was giving him a look that would make 1,000 puppies in a box seem ugly by comparison. He's right, Tenzin, me being cooped up in the South Pole and hidden away from the world won't help me become a better avatar. I saw a lot of the city today and it's completely out of whack. I get why you need to stay. Republic City needs you and it needs me too, she said, making Naruto stare at her. You haven't the slightest idea on how right you are, Naruto thought with a sigh before clapping his hands. Come on, Tenzin, let's head to the temple. Mom already messaged me and beep move involving me. But since I'm the only friend Korra here has in Republic City, I wouldn't mind helping her, Naruto said, walking away with his arm around Korra's shoulder. Not getting a word in, he followed the three as Korra said, so, that was your mom? Getting a nod, he said, I hope you can look past her. No nonsense demeanor, but she's not one to take flack from anyone when the town is concerned, but she's nice when you get to know her, he said, getting a scoff from Korra. No offense, Naruto, but that woman is a hard ass, she said, getting a chuckle from him as he nodded. Yeah, she's the no-nonsense type. I mean, I am too, but it took practice to be like that, while she's a natural at it. But in all honesty, she's not that bad once you learn about her and some of her hobbies. Form a bond with her, Naruto said as they made their way towards the ship to the Air Temple Island. So your mom isn't as hard-shelled as everyone thinks she is? Tenzin said, getting a snort from Naruto. Only to people who get on her nerves easily and aggravates her or hits one of her bad spots. Trust me, I've seen several people get her mad and several end up in the hospital, Naruto said as he leaned on the railing. So Naruto, why are you coming with us? She asked, making Naruto jab a thumb at Tenzin. Uncle Twinkle Toes here made the agreement without me and how I share joint responsibility for things you do here in Republic City. You get into trouble. Not only does Tenzin get in trouble, I get in more trouble than both of you combined, he explained, making the waterbender raise an eyebrow. To be blunt, he is a councilman, the law works on his behalf. I'm a simple police officer, and although the people prefer me over the council since I give a damn about their problems and listen while trying to help. But as I was saying, you do something, it's simple to say 75% of the blame will fall on me while 15% falls on you and 10% on Tenzin, he said, stretching, seeing a large statue of Aang holding his glider that gave off a golden glow by the setting sun. Reaching the shore of the island, Naruto saw Penma and her three children Ikki, Milo, and Jinora standing at the pier, while Jinora's eyes brightened seeing him as he waved at her, causing a blush to form on her cheeks. Docking Naruto was mowed down by Ikki and Milo, making him chuckle, while Jinora stood back with a blush on her cheeks before he was let up, saying, I don't get a hug from Jinora. I honestly think I might cry. Penma, looking down at her daughter Penma, said, my Jinora, I would have thought you liked Naruto. Guess the next time Tenzin and I go out for something and need somebody to look after you all, I might have to get someone else. Going wide-eyed, Jinora created a gust of wind, launching her towards Naruto, who caught her as she wrapped her arms around his waist despite having difficulty squeezing tightly, getting a chuckle from Naruto as he patted her head. Leaning near Penma and Tenzin, Korra asked, how does Naruto know you guys? We've been friends with his mom and him since he was born and when we were kids, same for Tenzin's brother, sister and Katara. As for our kids, there were times when we were busy nobody could watch them, so Naruto would look out for them as kids, sort of like a babysitter or a big brother, Penma explained as she watched Jinora's blush deepen as she tightened her grip. Are you coming to live with us on the island, Naruto? Why is Korra with you? Why are you giving Dad a glare? Did he do something wrong? Ikki asked in a single breath, getting a chuckle from Naruto, who was used to her long string of questions. In that order, Ikki. Yes, I will be staying here for a while. The reason Korra is with me is because she is under my watch due to some events that would be too long to explain at the moment. I'm giving your dad a glare because it has to do with why Korra and I are here, which would be connected with your fifth question. Anything else? Naruto asked, making the little girl remain silent before shaking her head, getting a chuckle from Naruto. Good, now isn't it just a bit late for you three to be up this late? Naruto said with a raised eyebrow, getting a groan from Ikki and Milo while Jinora pouted. Please Naruto, I'm not a kid. I'm only a few years younger than you know. Jinora said, getting a chuckle from Naruto. That may be true, but even needs her rest, ta big girl to grow. You don't think your mom or Korra got to be as tall or as beautiful by staying up late, did you? Naruto asked, getting a blush from the two while she nodded, running off to bed with her siblings, leaving Naruto and the others. You know, Korra, after Grandpa Twinkle Toes died, the city started to fall out of balance. Tenzin may have tried his best to keep things in check, but by putting your training on hold he was trying to keep Aang's legacy going, when to be honest you are his legacy. Tomorrow you two will begin air bending training and we can work on earth and water bending, Naruto said, getting a nod before she remembered what he said. My room is still where it was, right Penma? He asked, getting a nod from her as he hugged her before following the three to the temple. What did he mean, I already have earth and water mastered? Korra said, getting a chuckle from Tenzin. Naruto may not look it, but he's actually the world's strongest earth and water bender. He got his skill as an earth bender from Toph and Lin, while he got his tremendous skill in water bending from his late father. Actually my sister and his grandmother figures his control over those two elements are as great as your own when you're in your avatar state in your past life. If father was alive he just might agree with us, Tenzin said, making Korra stare at him in curiosity. Just who are you, Naruto? She thought before following Penma to the room she would be having during her stay at the temple. The next morning. A loud chorus of cheers and whistles could be heard as Korra stood before all of Republic City with a microphone in hand while cameras flashed, while Naruto and Lin stood on either side of her in their police uniforms. Tapping the microphone she said, hello, I'm Korra, your new avatar. As soon as those words left her lips the journalists fired off a barrage of questions, causing her to get flustered before Naruto stepped in as he said, people one at a time, Avatar Korra will field any and all questions you may have, but you must be patient and wait for your chance to speak. Giving him an appreciative nod for helping, he nodded in return as she pointed to the first, who said, does this mean you are permanently staying here in Republic City? As the group heard her answer the first question she heard started to become overwhelmed as she said, honestly I don't have a plan exactly. You see, I'm still in training, but... Pausing for a moment she said seriously after fumbling on the first part of her sentence as she said, look, all I know is that Avatar Aang meant for this city to be the center of peace and balance of the world. In the small few hours I've been in the city I've heard from many of you about how benders are oppressing the non-benders and how many groups, Chief and Lieutenant Bei Fong among others included, have been trying to fix the growing crack in that relationship. I want to believe we can make Aang's dream a reality, and I know that with enough effort and time it will come true. I look forward to serving you all. Thank you, Republic City. Korra said, making the crowd cheer. That will be all for today, thank you all for your time, Naruto said seriously as he and Lin lead Korra out of the crowd, unaware of the threat that was listening. The next day. And in the final round the Buzzard Wasps won the final round with a decisive knockout. Hey, can we go to the arena tonight? Maybe check out a few pro bending matches, Korra asked, sitting at the group breakfast table while Korra read the sports section while Tenzin gave a huff. That sport is a mockery of the noble tradition of bending, he said, getting a sigh from Korra. Please. I've dreamed of seeing a pro bending match since I was a kid and now I'm only a ferry ride away from the arena, Korra said, getting a blank expression from Tenzin. You aren't here to watch some drivel. You're here to complete your avatar training, so for the time being I want you to remain on the island, he ordered, getting a sigh from Korra before she perked up. Speaking of training, where's Naruto? He said he would be training me in my earth and water bending, she said, getting a groan from the doorway, making everyone turn to see said black and gray-haired teen stretching, wearing a pair of brown shorts with black bandages around the soles of his feet and hands, with an emerald green sleeveless muscle shirt. With his birthmark present, with his hair done in a low ponytail, drawing a blush on her cheeks. I'm here, I've been outside of wake-up schedule for so long I gotta get back in the swing of things. Anyways Korra, I don't honestly agree with Tenzin's view on pro bending. I mean, it's not like back when Aang was trying to stop Ozai and everyone was practicing bending and fighting. Groups are split into teams, each with a bender that can use one element save for air, since there are only 4 air benders in the world, yourself excluded. I like it to see how others use their bending and what style they know, Naruto said, joining them at the table eating a bowl of rice. It's despicable, Tenzin said, getting an eye roll from Naruto and Korra before Tenzin got up, walking out, being followed by Korra and Naruto. 15 minutes later. How come Naruto doesn't have to wear these robes? Korra asked, wearing similar clothing to Tenzin and his children, while Naruto chuckled, seeing the uniform, while slightly baggy on her, still clung to her curves. Because I'm not an air bender, my dear. If I was, this would be a totally different argument altogether, where I'd say it's because I prefer my non-restrictive clothing over the flowy fabric you're wearing. I like to feel like I'm wearing something, Naruto said as he stretched, all the while Korra stared at his chiseled body and the birthmark on his arm. So Korra, my mother told me you were never able to air bend before. Tenzin said, ignoring Naruto's comment while snapping Korra out of her thoughts. Yeah, but I don't know why. I've had an easier time with the others than I did with this one. I mean, as a girl of the North Pole, I would think my difficult element would be fire, since they clash. Why is it that I can't do air bending? Korra said, making Naruto think. Well, Aang had a difficulty with earth bending because it contradicted everything the air benders represented freedom. With earth, a bender must be rooted and firm like the earth, immovable, Naruto said, getting a nod from Tenzin, who rolled down Korra's sleeves. Come, it's time for the first lesson, Tenzin said as he led Korra and Naruto to the top of the long path, as they saw several large wooden panels on poles with Ikki, Jinora and Milo standing nearby. This, Korra, is a time-honored tool that teaches the most fundamental aspect of air bending. Jinora, how about you explain for her, Tenzin said, getting a nod from her eldest daughter, who walked towards the device. The goal is to weave your way through the gates and to make it to other side without touching them, she explained, getting a pat on the head from Naruto, making her beam. That doesn't sound too difficult, Korra said, feeling confident before Ikki burst her water-bending bubble. Jinora forgot to mention you have to make it through while the gates are spinning, she said as Tenzin created a large gust of wind, causing the gates to spin in various directions, making her gulp. The key is to be like the leaf. To flow with the movements of the gate, Jinora cared to demonstrate. Tenzin asked, getting a nod as she walked forward, dancing through the gates elegantly as she moved, never touching the gates once, making Naruto clap. Air bending is all about spiral movements. When you meet resistance, you must be able to switch directions at a moment's notice, Tenzin explained when Jinora created another gust of wind, making them spin in the opposite direction. Taking a breath, Korra said, building her confidence as she ran forward, hitting the first gate, causing her to get knocked around like a ball, coming back out where she started, making her growl before running back in. Seeing this, Naruto thought with a wince, wow, this looks so familiar, it's scary. That one looks like it's going to bruise. The more the kids talked, the more it got at Korra before she started to snort smoke. Naruto grabbed hold of her, pulling her back. Calm down, Korra, instead of air bending you're going to turn the gates into kindling with how you're going. Here, maybe if you saw it from the perspective of someone who isn't a born air bender might help, Naruto said as he walked forward. It was an immense contrast to how Korra acted as Naruto held his eyes closed as he danced through the gates before sliding out with ease before walking back to Korra, who was dumbfounded. "Ayu, how?" she said, getting a chuckle from Naruto as he patted her shoulder. "Trust me, Korra, it wasn't easy. I had to carve all of those myself after destroyed them the first couple dozen times I tried learning how. You have to remain calm and feel the air. If you control the wind it will push you back, if you fight the storm it will tear you apart. The air isn't something you force like the other elements, with air you guide it like water, Naruto said, getting a nod from Tenzin. Now instead of getting angry, how about we got to the shores and you show me just what the White Lotus Masters of Water and Earth taught you, Naruto said, guiding her to the shores, getting a nod. We'll be back, Tenzin. Not like we can leave, the ship won't be back for another 2 days and I doubt Naga would want to carry 2 teenagers back to land, Naruto said as he led Korra. At the shores. Now Korra, I know what you may think, that the White Lotus Masters of Earth and Water are perfect, but I can assure you their styles are far from it, Naruto said as he demonstrated before closing his eyes, making the ground shake when a large ring of earth formed around him as he jumped, allowing the wheel to touch the ground with his feet planted firmly on it before moving around. Punching forward, he made the wheel shatter as it fired a barrage of sharp jagged rocks at the sea before stomping his foot again, making a platform rise before kicking twice, making several thin sharp blades of earth fly, chopping down a tree nearby. Whoa! Korra said, amazed, getting a grin from Naruto before he exhaled and extended his arms when they were covered by large whips of water that covered his arms up to his shoulders as they extended past his hands. Like earth, water is a well-known element, and with the White Lotus only teaching one style, people can learn to counter it. You can't be predictable with your opponent because they know every play in your book, he said as the 2 whips got thin near the end, as Korra heard a slight vibrating sound when he stomped his foot before spinning, bringing the whips to the slab as it was chopped down in chunks, with him now using claws. As Tenzin is your air bending master, I will be your earth and water bending master. I will teach you what I know, but do know that I won't hold back because my grandma was friends with you in your past life. Like Mom said some time ago, that's the past and we're in the present, we may be friends but I won't coddle you while training, he said, getting a nod from Korra, seeing that same cold look in his eyes as his photo did, making him grin. I understand, Shifu, Naruto, she said, getting an appraising look from him. Let's see if you do, Korra, but before you know bending you must understand yourself. After all, a bender's skill is only as good as the shape they keep themselves in, he said, making her raise an eyebrow before she shivered seeing his fangs. Later that evening. Oh, my body hurts, Korra moaned, getting a chuckle from Naruto as he leaned down holding a bottle of water. Oh, don't be a baby, Korra, that was the light stuff and we'll start that way every morning before training and as a cool down after training. Trust me, you haven't seen the things I put myself through as a child if I wasn't in school to be a police officer, he said, sitting on the cold stone floor with Korra. Hey Naruto, why did you want to be an officer? I mean, you don't strike me as the type to be an officer, you're far too easygoing, Korra asked, getting a sigh from Naruto. I guess it's because it's in my blood. My dad, despite not being an earthbender, was one to help people, and my mom and grandma were police officers. As for my own reasons, it happened when I was a kid. The council refused to help an orphanage that was in horrendous conditions. It barely passed the law to stand, he said, making Korra gasp. It tore at me because many of us are fortunate that we have warm beds and warm meals in our stomachs every day, but them. So I told everyone to evacuate the building with the beds and things of importance and tore it down, he said, making Korra look at him. After that I created a large orphanage that held more than enough room for every child to have their own space, and I even worked on the plumbing and heating during the winter, even came to cook a few meals for them. As I did this, the council came demanding I stop, and you know what I told them? He asked, getting a shake of the head from Korra. I told them that it's the council and the bender's job to help the people of Republic City and to bring unity between all groups. If they had a problem with it, then they could just go fuck themselves. I was just a kid at the time and barely older than the children in the orphanage at the time. I did what I set my mind to and made the place better for the children, and even now as I pass by the orphanage on my way to work I see those children's smiling face and I know I helped in some way to show that someone gives a damn, he finished, getting a wide-eyed look from Korra before the two returned to silence. Hey Naruto, do you think I'm even cut out to be an airbender? I mean, everything else I've mastered in little to no time, but air. Nothing. I can't even get a breeze, she said, getting a chuckle from Naruto. Republic City wasn't created in a day, Korra. If it's worth learning or doing, it's worth effort and difficulty, be it bending or the everyday problems of life. I know you can do it, just give it time, he said, getting a nod before they heard a radio nearby, making them see the White Lotus sitting around a radio, making them get up, jump to the roof above the Lotus to listen better. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm coming to you live from Republic City's Pro Bending Arena, where tonight the best in the world continue on a quest for a spot in the upcoming championship tournament. They heard over the radio, making them grin, leaning closer. Grab your kids and grab your snacks, because this next match is going to be a doozy, they heard as the two stared at the arena from the roof while Naruto dived into his pocket pulling out snacks, offering Korra some as the two enjoyed the match. This Mako's got moxie and advances, firing 2 quick shots. Yomo is hammered back to zone 3. The clock is winding down. Can Yomo hold on as he teeters on the edge of the ring now? The announcer commented, bringing Naruto and Korra on the edge of suspense, listening to the play-by-play when the radio was disconnected, making the two teens gain a look of despair while Naruto wailed in despair. "Why, spirits, why must you torture me?" Naruto cried, pounding his fist on the roof, making the White Lotus to jump at the voice above them. "Korra, Naruto, come down here now," Tenzin said, making the two sigh as the water and earth benders grabbed the edge of the roof, flipped inside, standing in front of the irate airbender and alarmed White Lotus members. "Come on, Tenzin, you shut it off at the best part. Oh man, if I had money on that game, oh the things I would do to you, Tenzin." Naruto growled as water formed around him as his eye twitched in irritation. "What would your mother say if she knew you gamble, Naruto?" Tenzin said, getting a snort from the black and gray-haired teen. "Please Tenzin, who do you think taught me?" "Scratch that, Granny taught me, but Mom told me not to make a habit of it, which I don't. I only do so when I know I'm going to win, which by the way you three," he said, holding his hand out, making them sigh as they each dropped a couple dozen gold and silver pieces each, which Naruto promptly pocketed before seeing Korra and Tenzin stare at him as the 3 guards left. "What?" he said after a moment of silence before he shrugged, stretching with a yawn, feeling his bones pop. "I thought I made myself clear. I don't want you listening to this distracting nonsense," Tenzin said, getting a groan from Naruto. "Tenzin, it's their radio. Besides, it takes her mind off the difficulty she's facing with her air bending. You don't want her to be stressed out while trying to airbend and end up doing what I did when I got frustrated, do you?" Naruto said, getting a shiver before Tenzin glared at him. "You're also her teacher. You shouldn't be supporting her behavior and take training seriously," Tenzin said to Naruto, who yawned. "What do you want me to do? Blindfold her and place her at the end of a ridiculously steep ramp I earth bent and put a equally as ridiculously large boulder at the top and make Korra earth bend it out of the way until it's second nature like Granny did years ago? She has her own way of learning, just like your children, your sister and Aang did. You aren't going to look me in the eye and say that you and your own sister and Aunt Kia did what you're trying to do to train in bending?" Naruto said, folding his arms across his chest while Tenzin fumbled with his words. "Plus, if we're going to split hairs, you said she couldn't watch a match. You never said squat about listening to a match," Naruto said, getting a growl from Tenzin. "Shouldn't you be in bed right now?" Tenzin said, storming off, getting an eye roll from Naruto as the two headed to their rooms. The next morning, standing in the pagoda watching the 4 airbenders and Korra meditate, Naruto laid across the railing before she looked towards Naruto, who shrugged as she said, "I think I might be doing this wrong." "There's nothing to do, Korra, just let your mind and your spirit be free as air is the element of freedom. You must embrace it," Tenzin said, getting a snort from Naruto. "Irony at its purest form, since unlike the wind you try to control Korra's every movement outside of training," Naruto said, getting a twitch of the eyebrow from Tenzin. "I do not," he said, getting a snort from the two teens. "You tried to tell her how to bathe and where to focus. That's just going beyond control, freak," Naruto said as he scratched his head. "Ignoring that, just look at Milo, he's able to do it," Tenzin said, making the two stare at the boy who was drooling with a snot bubble. "I think he's relaxing just a bit too much by the looks of it," Naruto said, watching the boy snore. "Look, Korra, I know you're frustrated, but these teachings will take hold over time and click into place," Tenzin said, closing his eyes like Korra did as well before she exhaled, standing. "Yeah, I'm going to go stretch my legs," Korra said, with Naruto shaking his head following her. Later that evening. "Alright, almost there," Korra thought, sneaking past the White Lotus after leaving her room, standing at the edge of a cliff. "Just where do you think you're going so late?" she heard while she was in mid-jump to flail her arms trying to keep her balance before Naruto grabbed her collar and pulled back, turning her to see Naruto with his arms crossed and eyebrow rose. Going for a swim?" she said while Naruto kept his suspicious expression before she sighed. Fine, I'm going to the arena to watch a game. I can't stand being on this island much longer before I end up losing my mind just meditating, she said, getting a nod from Naruto. I won't argue with that one. Come on, if we're lucky we can catch a match, Naruto said, diving with Korra following him. Under the arena's pier. Whoa, Korra said, getting a chuckle from Naruto before he shushed her before making her follow him as they launched themselves through an open window. Follow me, Naruto said as the two walked through the halls to see a training ground which the two walked in before an old man walked in. Well, I'll be a sight for sore eyes, Naruto. How you doing, kid? He said, slugging Naruto on the shoulder, making Naruto chuckle. Korra, this is old man Toza, but I just call him Gramps. He's been trying to get me to be a pro bender for some time now. He even taught me a few things if I ever wanted to entertain the idea, and I'm fine. Toza, Korra here is under my watch and she wanted to see where the magic happens, so here we are. Anything happen lately? Naruto said, getting a shrug from the old man while Korra stood there surprised. Wait, you can be a pro bender? She said, getting a nod when they heard. There you are, they heard, making them see a youth with short brown hair wearing a red and white padded uniform with one arm hanging on a sling. Don't even try it, Bolin, you sneaky bastard, she's with me. I see you're keeping out of trouble, Naruto said, seeing Bolin. Naruto, do you think you guys can come with me? He said, getting a shrug from the two as Naruto said goodbye to the old man who started to lift weights. What's up, Bolin, and did that happen during a match? Naruto asked, staring at the bandaged arm, getting a nod. Yeah, the game is about to start and my other teammate is close to quitting. We need 3 benders to play, so maybe you can do me a solid and help a fellow earthbender out? He begged as they opened the door to see the arena outside. Bolin. What did I tell you about bringing your rabid fan girls in here? Get them out of here and let's get back to the field. They heard to see a boy who looked like Bolin, except his hair came to a point slightly, with another boy that had long straight hair. Mako, long time no see, keeping out of trouble, and Bolin is injured. He can't help without only making his injury worse. He asked me to help out and Korra is with me to make sure nothing bad happens, he said, going into the lockers to change his clothes to the pro bending uniform while placing his hair in a high ponytail. Let's rock then, Naruto said, standing with the others as the announcer came from the center of the stage. Introducing the Fire Ferrets. Due to Bolin's recent injury in the last match, he has acquired a substitute to take his place, he said, pointing to the red corner as the 3 slid out before he stood in front of Naruto. What's your name, kid, and why are you here? The man said, getting a chuckle from Naruto. My name is Naruto Beifong and I'm doing this because my friend Bolin asked me to help him out with this. Couldn't necessarily say no to the guy, he said, rubbing the back of his head, making several women in the crowd cheer for him and Bolin. Well, the Fire Ferrets have come from nowhere and are now facing their toughest opponent yet. Can they pull it off with Republic City's golden boy and every teenage girl's dream boy, he said, as the 2 teams got ready before the bell rang, making Naruto swing his arm, launching a plate of earth at the person in front of him. Heisok is the first to feel the fire of the Tigardillos while the 2 teams try to blast the other out of Zone 1. Trying to return the favor, but they're too fast for him, the announcer said, watching the match. Korra had a large smile. Look at Naruto go, like Mako, showing his cool under fire personality. Naruto shows his quick wits and fast thinking, striking fear into his opponent, the announcer said as the 2 boys fired off several things of fire and earth, knocking 2 of their opponents back to Zone 2 like they did to the Fire Ferrets, knocking Heisok and Mako back to Zone 2. Leaving Naruto at the front line. Oh my, it seems the Tigardillos lead Firebender and Fire Ferrets lead Earthbender are in a stalemate. Who will be launched back to Zone 2 or go overboard? The suspense is just too much to bear. The announcer said as Naruto and the Firebender both launched an attack before knocking into each other, pushing them back. Oh my, both Naruto and the Tigardillos' own Kai were both knocked back into Zone 2. Who will advance forward will let the judge decide. The announcer said as they turned their attention to the judge by the board. With Korra. Oh man, this is amazing. These fights are so intense. Korra said, leaning against the railing staring at the board as the judge waved to the Tigardillos. What? Ah, come on judge, are you blind? Kai got blasted to the back first. Korra yelled amongst the crowd as she watched the Tigardillos advance into their territory while Naruto got up, dusting himself off. Come on guys. Bolin said before wincing as Haysock was tossed back to Zone 3 before getting tossed overboard. "Oh, this can't be good," Korra said, watching as Naruto and Mako struggled against the three-pronged attack as they blocked and dodged two of the three before getting the brunt of the third, pushing them over to Zone 3, making the buzzer go off for the Tigardillos. "Oh man, they need to get their act together, otherwise the Tigardillos get a ticket to the finals," Bolin said, watching as the match started getting pushed to the second zone, allowing the Tigardillos to go to their first zone before the two cheered as they laid into them, launching them over the edge. The Fire Ferrets cinched the round in the closing seconds, bringing the game to 1-1 apiece, but it's still anyone's match as we go into the final round. The announcer said, seeing the two teams start making the two in the Fire Ferrets booth lean over the railing. Back to the match. Haysock stumbles and falls onto his teammate Mako. He and Mako better act quick or the two are going to take a quick dip. The announcer said as the two struggled to get up before they were both hit by an earth plate, launching the two into the water. It's all up to Naruto now to hold on. He's bobbing, he's weaving. He's weaving and bobbing. But he's not fighting back. He better act quick or the Fire Ferret's fabulous season comes to a close. The announcer said as Naruto dodged the three attackers as the two-element bender brought up a plate, launching it at the water bender, knocking him over the edge. It seems the Fire Ferret's plan was to let the Tigardillos punch themselves out, and it seems to be working. The man said as everyone watched as Naruto danced around the other two strikes before sending a barrage of plates at the two. Naruto is on the offensive with Han in the pool as it's 2-on-1. The announcer said as the crowd watched in amazement before he launched a plate at the fire bender, making him hit the pole before falling overboard. Scratch that, it's 1-on-1 and it's an earth-on-earth clash. The smoke is rising, covering the benders who will come out the winner and who will be sent home. The announcer said as Naruto and the other earth bender were in the center sending plates at each other before the Tigardillo's earth bender was sent to the end of his team's side of the field, while Naruto was still in the smoke before Naruto was seen in the air with a plate flying by his fist before he fired it, aiming at his opponent's legs and another at his chest, pushing him over the edge. I can't believe it, folks. Naruto Beifong has won the match. What a wing dinger of a upset, folks. I can't help but feel sorry for the people who couldn't watch this in person, for it was a once-in-a-lifetime upset. Naruto pulls off the upset, winning the match for the Fire Ferrets. The announcer said as Naruto pulled off his helmet, waving to the crowd. With Korra and Bolin. Alright. We just need one more win and we're in the championship tournament. Bolin said to Korra as Mako and Haysock joined them while Naruto walked to the group. So Korra, what do you think of pro bending now that you saw it in action instead of hearing it from the announcer's mouth? Naruto said before he was pulled into a hug by Korra. It's amazing. I never saw bending like that before. I mean, I know you're teaching me and all, but I've never seen anything serious like that before, Korra said, getting a chuckle from Naruto before he was caught in a headlock by Bolin with his good arm. Naruto, you're a lifesaver. If I were a woman I'd kiss you. He said, getting a chuckle from Naruto. I appreciate the sentiment, but I'll pass, Bolin. It's the least I could since we're friends. Now can you let go? I can smell your armpits and it smells like you bathed in sewage, Naruto said, getting an embarrassed chuckle from the injured earthbender before they heard Mako and Haysock argue. We won, alright, get off my back. Haysock said, making Mako glare. You did more harm than good out there, Haysock, Mako said, getting a snort from Haysock, who took off his helmet and tossed it to the ground before storming out of the room. I can't believe there's such a style of bending out there, and I've been immersed in bending my whole life. Korra said as Mako walked to them. You two are still here. Mako said, getting an eye roll from Naruto. And you're still an ass, don't see me complaining. Well, not out loud, matchstick, at least you could say thanks, since if it weren't for Bolin being injured and he asked me to cover for him at the last second, or I wasn't showing Korra around, I can assure you I wouldn't be here, Naruto said as he shook his head before turning to Korra and Bolin. How about it, Bolin? Think we can show her a thing or two about pro bender's style of bending? He said, getting a nod. Sure, we can show her the basics, although I don't see how it will translate to her water bending, he said, making the two turn to each other before smiling. I wouldn't be too worried, I'm actually an earthbender, she said, making Bolin stare at her and her clothes. Sorry, I just assumed, you know, with your water tribe get up that you're a water tribe, gal, he said, getting a chuckle from Naruto. She is a water tribe girl, she's also a water bender, and a fire bender, Naruto said with a grin, making Bolin nod confused before looking at the two. Yeah, Naruto, did your mom or dad have a kid the other didn't know about before now? I mean, you're the only other person I know who can use more than one element and isn't. Bolin started before Mako said. You're the avatar and I'm an idiot, Mako said, getting a nod from the two. True on both counts, she said as Bolin led the two to the training room. Republic City training room. Alright Korra, let's see what you got, Bolin said as he and Naruto watched Korra stand in front of a net with 2 stacks of earth plates before sending 2 at the net, getting an applaud from Naruto and Bolin. Good power, but in a real match you'd be a sitting turtle duck. You can't be so upright and flat-footed, you have to be light on your toes until the right moment and dig in and strike. Naruto cared to demonstrate, Bolin said, getting a nod from the black and gray-haired teen as he stood next to her in a boxer's stance, launching 2 plates quickly. Think of it like the training I put you through for the past few days, Naruto said as he moved back to Bolin, getting a nod. Alright, let's try it again, she said, practicing her stance, bouncing on her feet before she sent 2 plates flying one after the other quickly. Nice adjustment, Korra. Like I said, the practice of the White Lotus will only get you so far for any style you use. You need to branch out, which is why you and I are here to learn more styles of bending for you to learn, Naruto said as Mako yawned. Alright Bolin, I'm going to bed, don't stay up too late, and it was nice to see you, Avatar Korra, Naruto, Mako said as he went to his place of sleep. You two stay here, Korra said, getting a nod. Yeah, our folks died when we were kids, so we stay here thanks to Toza and Naruto letting us stay here, Bolin said as they got into a silence. I'm going to turn in too, if you guys want we can pick this back up tomorrow, he said as they nodded, allowing Bolin to head to his room with his brother as Naruto and Korra walked out. Naruto, how do you know Mako and Bolin? She asked as they two got on a boat. It was when I was just instated as a metal bender police officer. I was put on the line to intercept the gang and came across them. They weren't doing anything bad or serious opposed to what the groups usually do. Just petty things, pickpocketing, counting the money and other small things. I busted them and brought them in and did what I could to make sure they stayed out of trouble, Naruto explained as he used water bending to push the boat to the island. Mako hates me because he thinks I'm looking down on him, while Bolin and I hit things off as I looked out for them. Even gave Bolin some tips on earth bending, which led to the two of them getting to the pro bending league, he explained, getting a sigh from Korra as they snuck back on the island before Naruto used water bending to push the boat back. Now get some sleep, you have training in the morning, Naruto said, getting a groan from Korra as Naruto got into his sleepwear before getting in bed. End chapter. So this part ends here. If you want to see next part of this series, like the video now, and share the story with your friends. Bye bye.